Hello friends, today we're going to talk about the Pythagorean Theorem. Our learning target, I can use the Pythagorean Theorem to find missing side lengths in a right triangle, and I can use the converse of the Pythagorean Theorem to determine if a triangle is a right triangle. Our state standard is apply the Pythagorean Theorem and its converse to solve problems and logically justify results. So this is the mathematical theorem for the Pythagorean Theorem. If a triangle is a right triangle, then the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. That sounds very confusing. Really what it means, if we label our triangle, remember the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. You have to be able to find that first. That always has to be labeled C. And then the legs have to be labeled A and B. It doesn't matter which leg you label A and which leg you label B. And then A squared plus B squared is C squared. So if we look here, I'm going to always label my hypotenuse first. I usually label the shorter leg A and the longer leg B, but it doesn't matter. Plugging that into my formula, A is 3, so 3 squared. B is x plus x squared equals 5 squared. Simplifying here, 9 plus x squared is 25. Take 9 from both sides. X squared is 16. And then remember to undo a square. We square root both sides, and we get x is 4. Notice that we're only doing the positive square root of 16. Before, when we were solving square roots, we would have said positive and negative. But since this is a length, it's only going to be the positive. So positive 4. Let's look at another one. Again, I'm going to label my C first, my hypotenuse. And then my legs, I'm going to label that A and that B. Plug it into my equation. A is x, so x squared. B is 12 plus 12 squared. And C is 15 equals 15 squared. Simplifying this, x squared plus 144 is 225. Take 144 from both sides. And I'll get x squared is 81. And then again, to undo the squared, I'll square root both sides, and the square root of 81 is 9. And here we'll put 9 centimeters. Which reminds me, I should have put 4 inches here. Make sure if there's a label on the picture that there's a label in your answer. So get another one here. I'll label my C first. Then I'm going to call 5A and 12B. So plugging in what I know, 5 squared plus 12 squared is x squared. 5 squared plus 12 squared is 169. So 169 is x squared. And then square root both sides. We get the square root of 169 is 13. Then we'll put the feet. So x is 13 feet. So get another one here. My C is across from my right angle. I'm going to call this A and this B. Again, A and B can switch. It doesn't matter, but C always has to be the hypotenuse, which is across from the right angle. So we have 6 squared plus x squared is 10 squared. 36 plus x squared is 100. Take 36 from both sides, and we get x squared is 64. And then I'll square root both sides, and I'll get x is 8 feet. The hypotenuse, or C, should always be the longest side of the triangle. So if you're solving for A or B and you get a number that's bigger than C, you would have known you did something wrong. Here, my C is 10, my A is 6, my B is 8, so I'm good. All right, they want us to find AB, so I'm going to call that X. That's my C because it's across from the right angle. I'm going to label 12A and 15B. So 12 squared plus 15 squared is X squared. 12 squared and 15 squared is 369. If I take the square root here, 369 is not a perfect square, so we have to break it down. It's the same as 3 times 123. 3 is prime. 123 is 3 and 41, and they're both prime. So I'm going to end up with a 3 on the outside and a 41 on the inside, and that equals X, or AB. There is no label on this one, so I can just leave it as 3 square roots of 41. Let's look at one more. This is my C. We'll call that A, which means that has to be B. We're looking for EF. So we're looking for X there. 7 squared plus X squared is 10 squared. Simplifying here, 49 plus X squared is 100. Taking 49 from both sides, we'll get that X squared is 51. If I square root 51, it is not a perfect square, but the only way to multiply to 51 is 3 and 17, so I can't simplify 51. So my final answer is just X equals the square root of 51, or EF equals the square root of 51. The converse, which kind of means opposite of the Pythagorean theorem, is if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then the triangle is a right triangle. So we're not really solving for a side here. We're just plugging numbers into our Pythagorean theorem to see if we get a true statement. They're not giving us a right angle here because we don't know if this is a right triangle. However, we know that the longest side has to be C. And I'm going to call this A and this B. So I want to know, is it true that 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 16 squared? I'm going to put a question mark there because I don't know if that's true yet. 5 squared plus 12 squared is 169. And 16 squared is 256. Those are not equal, which means this is not a right triangle because those are not the same. Let's look at another one here. We know that 15 has to be C, which means we'll have 9A and 12B. So I want to know if it's true that 9 squared plus 12 squared is 15 squared. If I put 9 squared plus 12 squared in my calculator, I get 225. 15 squared is 225. I should have put a question mark here. And since those are equal, I can say yes, this is a right triangle. Next one here. We know that 13 is C, 5 is A, and 12 is B. So if I plug this into my formula, I have 5 squared plus 12 squared is 13 squared. I want to know if that's true. If I put 5 squared plus 12 squared into my calculator, I get 169. 13 squared is 169. Those are equal, so yes, this is a right triangle. Couple more here. 14 has to be my C because it's the longest side. I'm going to call 9A and 12B. So is it true that 9 squared plus 12 squared is 14 squared? 9 squared plus 12 squared is going to give me 225. 14 squared is 196. Those are not equal, so no, this is not a right triangle. All right, one more. The longest side here is 37, so that has to be my C. I'm going to call 12A and 35B. So is it true that 12 squared plus 35 squared is 37 squared? 12 squared plus 35 squared is 1,369. 37 squared is 1,369. Since those are equal, then yes, that is a right triangle. So again, for both of these types of examples, make sure you label A, B, and C. Always label C first across from the right angle. A and B doesn't matter. And then plug it into the formula. For the first example, you're going to solve for one of the sides. And for the second example, you're just going to see if both sides are equal. Have a good day, friends.